for Freeman, and it's incomplete. Or did he make the catch at the 15?
Yeah.
What are they going to rule it? He caught it? Touchdown! He did what?
The end zone. It is caught for the win. Richard Rodgers with a walk-off touchdown. Total disbelief at Ford Field.
Rushes on, has time. Looking, throws, middle, got it there. Breaking free to the 50. He may go all the way to the 20 down the right side. And there's Randall Cobb to the 5, to the end zone, to the touchdown. Oh my goodness.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Green and Golden Boys podcast, the podcast for Packers fans living in enemy territory. I'm Marcus, and with me is Charles.
Hey guys.
And, we understand there's not a ton going on right now across the NFL or the world really due to the pandemic, but recently Aaron Rodgers did have a conference call with a bunch of reporters and kind of addressed the media for the first time since the draft, and we wanted to take 10-15 minutes and talk about that conference call, some of the quotes that Aaron had, and kind of give you our take on those. So, Charles, did you get a chance to listen to that conference call?
I did, yep. I listened to it on recording just the other day.
Okay, well, that's good. I've listened to it myself, and I have a couple of quotes down here from Aaron I wanted to talk to you about and get your take on. I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was the draft and the roster. So Aaron Rodgers was asked by a reporter about his take on the current roster, and he said, quote, he understands it's the team's job to put together a roster for now and for the future as well. So it sounds to me like he gets it. There wasn't a wide receiver taken in this draft. Not a ton of offensive weapons for him. But when he said that, I kind of thought, well, here's a guy who understands how it works. It's not all about him or getting him weapons. It's about building for now and for the future, which is something we all struggle with, in our everyday lives. You got to make decisions for now, but you also have to plan for the future kind of thing, plan for the worst, but hope for the best. So what was your take on that? And do you think that Aaron Rodgers really feels that the roster is in good shape right now?
I have a slightly cynical view on that, actually. We haven't talked about our opinions yet, but part of me feels like in the back of his head, he's thinking to himself, how Brett Favre handled this transition and that whole transition from Rodgers to Favre. And I think he's very careful with his words about how to make sure he's coming across as super supportive and kind of giving the politically correct answer. And that's what it felt like to me. I'm not saying he's being disingenuous or anything like that, but it felt calculated. It was several weeks after the draft, and it to me, I think he's pissed, but he has to kind of give that politically correct answer that may be true, right? I'm not saying he doesn't believe a part of it, but it felt somewhat calculated to me. How about you?
I think I'll agree a little bit. I think we want him to be professional and to I won't say, like you said, give a calculated answer, but I think we want somebody like him to kind of say the right thing. Whether or not he believes, what he says, sometimes I'm not really sure. I think he was a little bit more genuine than I think you think he was. You know what I mean? I think he really does understand the business of it. He saw it firsthand when he was drafted, and Favre told everyone he was retiring and then wanted to unretire, and the Packers were like, no, we're going to stick to our guns here. We're going to go with Aaron Rodgers, and good luck to you, Favre. Thanks for everything you've done. He's seen how the business works. It would have been it could have been easy for the Packers to keep Favre for another year or two and let Aaron sit on the bench, but they were like, no, we need to, we understand what Favre has done, what he's meant to this franchise, but Aaron is going to lead us for the next, 15 years. So we got to start that and figure that portion of it out. So Yeah, I think he's genuine, and I think he says the right things, and I'm glad that he does. I wouldn't want somebody who necessarily speaks their mind, or or tells us exactly how they feel. I don't know if that's for better or worse, but I think that just usually creates more controversy or noise than it needs to, and that becomes a distraction in and of itself. So I like what he had to say there.
And if Aaron sneezes the wrong way, it's controversy, right? I mean, back even
Exactly.
LaFleur as a head coach, like, oh, they're already arguing. It's like, well, we've had 4 practices.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. There's a good balance there. But you can kind of, in some of the other questions that he answered, you can kind of sense, he used the word, and you probably have this coming up next, he was surprised, or it was a little bit shocking when he saw Jordan Love get picked first. And then later on in that conference call, he kind of threw out there that the opinion of the 2019 Packers was that they were a bad 13-3 team. And he did seem to kind of take some offense to that, and kind of tying this all into the big picture of, deep down, I think he wanted that, I mean, not even deep down, I think he just wanted that impact player, that perimeter player, or whatever it might be. So to your point, it was good that he's not causing controversy, but he's got to be frustrated.
Well, okay. And then here was a question I thought was really interesting that one of the reporters asked, and that was, did he think that given our current state, the pandemic, everything like that, are 2020 rookies going to be able to make an impact, or are they going to be making less of an impact because of the current state of the offseason, not being able to train together, not be able to be on site with coaches as soon as we think that they normally are? I mean, when asked about that, Aaron said basically that he feels that there are some players out there that this is going to hurt. There's definitely some rookies that need that hands-on experience. They need to be able to they need to be able to be on site with their coaches and with their teammates to learn and pick things up. But then he said there are guys that are really, really accountable on their own, and then will be able to come in and pick things up. Again, I think to your point earlier, I think he was kind of saying what maybe people were hoping, or expecting him to say. But I definitely think that these rookies are going to have a harder time making an impact given the current state of things. And maybe that plays to our benefit, not having that another wide receiver he needs to get on the same page with. We've got guys like MVS and Equanimeous St. Brown and Alan Lazard and Jake Kumro coming back, who already have worked with Rodgers, who aren't going to have to take that, that year one learning curve. They're already hopefully on the same page and can now, maybe make an impact. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I kind of said this a few episodes back where I thought this draft class, this is before the draft, this draft class would have a harder time with the limited interaction. Just kind of common sense there, right? If you don't have as much hands-on. I did like his take, though. I didn't really think of that. And then Aaron compared it to the holdout year, 2011, how more of the veterans came back almost better because they were more rested. They were working out in their home cities. And I didn't think of that. I thought of it in terms of like being a team and one unit. But I really liked Aaron's take of, hey, actually we got a little bit more rest and we were more ready to go that season in 2011 when they had more of a break. So I agree with you. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, hopefully 2020, if that looks anything like 2011, I think we're in for a great year. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. But and then what you said specifically about our receivers, you're right. We said this before the draft. Again, maybe we're not as high on a receiver because of specifically Aaron Rodgers, how hard it is for him to get in sync with a wideout, and then without him actually throwing a ball to him until. Maybe not even until September, right? Things could go that way where they're not really working out together for a long time. So maybe that does help. I will also note when he started talking about his wide receiver group, Devontae Adams wasn't the first name out of his mouth. It was Alan Lazard. So I know he's been high on him for a long time. But to have him kind of speak his name first of the confidence he has in the receivers, and then the confidence that the organization clearly has in the receivers because they didn't go wide out in the draft. I thought that was something small but something noteworthy of Aaron Rodgers once again is high on Lazard.
Yeah, and do you remember Darius Shepard as well? I mean, those two kind of came up together last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're both unrestricted free agents. Darius Shepard was kind of the smaller, maybe a slot receiver type, 5'11", 180 pounds. They had him back there to receive, kickoffs and punts, I believe. But after he dropped a couple, they decided that was a no-go, and I believe he spent the year in the practice squad. But here's a guy that I think that they liked a lot last summer, and during the preseason. Do we think that he makes the active roster this year and maybe, a chance to compete for the, 4 or 5 spot on wide receiver?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I would hope so. But I think the more competition we have, I mean, I could see us erring on too many wideouts, early, just for that added competition, early in the season, because something's got to click, and it's got to click this year, for wideouts beyond, Devontae Adams.
Yep, and you mentioned this year, Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a lot of time left. 4 years left on his contract, but obviously with the draft pick, of Jordan Love this year, he was asked a couple of times about whether or not he feels like he can finish his career in Green Bay. So he said, well, that's out of his control. What he can control is how he plays. He says he has a sincere desire to start and finish his career with the same organization, but it may not be a reality at this point. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is ready to, play look elsewhere in the next 2 or 3 years? Or do you think he really is going to fight to stay in Green Bay, regardless of what happens with Jordan Love?
Honestly, I can see him leaving. It's so sad to say. I think the comparison between, again, Favre and Rodgers, he pointed this out, is not exactly accurate because, like he said, Favre was kind of, I'm going to retire. No, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to retire. And then Green Bay finally said, you know what? We're going to go with this guy, Aaron Rodgers. To your point, he's said many, many times that he wants to play here or keep playing until his 40s. And like he said, if it comes a point where he still feels like he can play and the organization is going to move on, I don't think he calls it in early. I think he does what a lot of quarterbacks have done. We're seeing it in Tom Brady right now. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. God, that'd be a sad sight to see Rodgers go win a Super Bowl with someone else. But yeah, I think if we pull the cord, on Rodgers early, or what Rodgers perceives to be early, I would put money on Aaron going somewhere else and hopefully just not playing in our division this time around.
Right. And, I think a month or two ago, I probably wouldn't have agreed with you. But, after seeing Tom Brady move to Tampa Bay, I just kind of feel like anything can happen, you know what I mean, in the NFL. And a lot of times it's personal to us as fans, I think, a lot of times. But, for the players, it can be, and the organization can just be a business decision, and they decide it's time to move on. And if Aaron feels like he can still play, then he's going to want to play. He's not going to just retire to be a Packer when he feels like there's still gas left in the tank. So,
and
I would be sad. The
knock against Peyton and Brady the last couple of years is they look old. They're turning more into game managers, and they still got a lot of productive years out of their old team, right? Rodgers, like he said in his press conference the other day, he feels great. He feels young. He says his legs are the most important thing that have to stick with a quarterback. And, to have him look, I mean, he hasn't been perfect. He's not the 2011 Rodgers that we know. But he doesn't look too far off. I know the haters up here in Minneapolis on their radio, Vikings radio, they love saying, "Oh, Rodgers doesn't look the same." Well, okay, NFC Championship doesn't look too bad to me.
Right.
He doesn't. It's just hard for a fan to swallow this right now.